Hey everyone. I think we're live now, hopefully. Am I live? I see myself there. So okay, I hope things are working. Sometimes I can't tell. It's like paused on my end, but I think we're good. So let me know in the chat if you can hear me okay and make sure everything's all right. When I first click that button, I'm never quite sure. Oh, I can hear it. Yeah. Okay. I better mute that so I can't hear it over on this end or we'll get some weird feedback. So thank you so much for joining me for this whole knit along and for hanging out with me tonight. And I'd love to hear about, I put a poll in there. Tell me which cowl you're knitting or working on, or if you're finished. I'd love to know about that. And tell me where you're we're not on Zoom tonight, where you're streaming in from tonight. And I'm gonna pop over there and look. Monique, hey, hi to you too. Nancy in Maine and Michigan, hopefully not both at the same time, that would be a feat. And Sharon, hi to you too. And yes, I'm live. Thank you. Good. I'm glad the volume's okay. I know it's a bit echoey. Somebody commented on that, but I wanted to keep it as simple as possible and not like try to hook up too many extra things. And it's a bit echoey in here. I told my husband that I need to buy more yarn for soundproofing. Let's see if that will actually work for me. I don't think it will, but hopefully. And Jenny in Minnesota, hi. Tina, not participating in the knit along, but a couple days ago I started my first big knitting project. Great, that's great, and you love the channel. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad everybody's here tonight. So this is our wrap-up party. I mean, it's a cowl. You could take a while to knit it. You could knit it super fast. It's really up to you how long it's going to take you. But I didn't think it would take that long. So I figured 3 weeks, like from the start, I guess 2 weeks total from the first live stream to the last. But so this is our wrap-up party tonight, but we still have things to talk about, like how to put the cowl together. So if you haven't seen it and you're just popping in for the first time, we've been working on these two cowls. You get you decide which one you want to knit. This is the Longshore Currents cowl and this is the November cowl. This one is with fingering weight yarn. This one is with worsted weight yarn. Both of them use Chroma from Knit Picks, which is a sort of a gradient color gradient yarn that fades from one color to another, so you get all of the fun of lots of color changes without having to do all of the color changing yourself with multiple strands of yarn and all the extra yarns and stuff. It's all done for you. So what we're going to talk about tonight is this part right here, sewing things up, because we started casting on, knitting in the round till we had like a long tube, then you bind it off, and then you sew the two ends together. And it is an obvious join, like you can't really hide it there. Somebody did say that they decided to do a provisional cast on, so when they're done they can just graft the ends together, so that will be a little more invisible. Unless, they'll still have like one sort of stripe in whatever color they're grafting in, unless they're going to try to graft in pattern, which more power to you if you are. I've never tried to do that, but I'm sure it could be done. But in the pattern, we cast on, we bind off, and then we sew the ends together, because I don't mind doing that. And I didn't feel like doing a provisional cast on for this one. Maybe for the next one, because I have more ideas for more of these. These are the kinds of cowls I like. Lots of color, but like super squishy. Somebody else said that before they sewed theirs up, they twisted it to give like that Mobius effect. And I thought that was a really great idea too. So more ideas for the future. You guys are great. Maybe just pop back over to the chat and see who else is here. Francine from Morrisburg, Ontario, Canada. Hey, fellow Canadian. Morrisburg, isn't that where Upper Canada Village is, in that area? I was just there this summer. It was lots of fun. I'm planning to go back. We're going back to see Christmas lights. Upper Canada Village is sort of like a not pioneer. I'm not sure of the time period. I can't quite recall. But, like an old-timey reenactment area where like it's a whole town. Every building is like, you've got your mill and your schoolhouse and your church. It's got like all of the houses and then inn, and you can go into each one and see lots of different things. That's really off track. But anyway, it's a great place to visit if you're ever close to it. And that's in Ontario. I think is it near Morrisburg? I'm not sure. I don't remember. And Pam, who's in Michigan, you're all done. Just have to sew it together. Good. You're right on time then, because we're going to be talking about that tonight. And Kitty in Virginia. And your cowl is still drying and ready to seam. Wow, you guys are doing great. And Monique is just watching along behind on other projects on my list. I know I've got like a pile of things I'm working on, and I just, yeah, have to prioritize and decide what's got to get done. Oh, and Francine, yes, okay, it is just past Morrisburg. I am in the right place, yeah. So just a promo for Upper Canada Village. Really great place to visit. Okay, so the pattern, if you are just hanging out here and you're just seeing this for the first time, you'll find it linked down below. And I think before we get into the demo, I don't think this is going to be a super long live stream tonight. I have some notes here, but I don't have a ton to talk about. Let me just clear off my space because we're going to do a little demo for sewing the ends up. But let's start with a giveaway for the 17 people who are here. Let's give away 2 patterns. I'm going to put a link in the chat where you can, so if you win, you're going to go to that. There we go. You're going to go to that URL and pick whatever pattern you want that is published on my website, not like something that's published somewhere else. And you can pick the pattern you want. So just for the comments, I'm going to also put my email address in there because then whoever wins, you're going to have to email me. So there. So my email address is there already too in the chat. So just leave the word pattern in all caps and I'll know that you'd like a free pattern. That's fine. We're going to pick 2 people. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that. And Bookstorm, hello from Newcastle, UK. Hi. You started the Longshore Currents cowl. Turn the chart 90 degrees and working it in the round. That way I don't have to sew it. Oh, that's a good idea. You really want to avoid sewing. Yeah. That's a good way to do it. And Francine, I go New Year's Eve every year. Oh, to Upper Canada Village. We were just going to have this side conversation about that. I'm looking forward to it too. We got tickets for seeing the Christmas lights there. So I'm really looking forward to going to see that. So promo for Upper Canada Village. Okay, we've got some comments there. So I'm just going to look away for a second so I'm not looking at anybody in particular. And I'm just going to pick 2 people and so if I say your handle, then you will go to the URL, tanyanits.com/patterns, and then pick out whatever pattern you like. And then my email address is there as well. So after I announce who you are, then you just have to send me an email saying you won the pattern giveaway and tell me which pattern you want. And then let me know if you want it just the download from the website or if you prefer to have it in Ravelry, because I can sort of gift it to you through Ravelry if you prefer it over there in your Ravelry library. Okay, so first one, Monique, let's go with you. You're number 1. Monique, go ahead and go look at the patterns or after we're done, I guess, and pick one out that you'd like. And okay, number 2, Bookstorm. So you 2, Monique and Bookstorm, you are winners for the pattern, and don't be disappointed if you didn't win. We're going to have a couple more later on. This is our big wrap-up party, so I want to make sure we have lots of fun tonight. Okay, oh, I should have the disclaimers here. This is not sponsored by YouTube, and it's open worldwide for all the other giveaways we're talking about too, except for the big giveaway at the end. That one is going to be in only certain areas, but all the other ones worldwide, not sponsored by YouTube. I have the full disclaimer in the video description box just to have all of my bows tied or everything, so everything is all legit, you know? So that's it. So Monique and who was the other one? Bookstorm. So, and Jenny says, congrats to you both. Yes, congrats to both of you. So go pick out your free pattern. Now we're going to go and talk about sewing up the ends and how to do that. I wanted to do a little demo here. Let me see if I can grab some paper that is not written all over and a pen. That would be good. Okay, so we're going to go to the overhead. And oh, I did want to reiterate I think I said it at the beginning, but it's in my notes here, so I'm going to say it again. Somebody said that they turned it sideways and did it that way. So no sewing, they just did it all in the round. And another option is if you don't mind provisional cast on, you could do that and then graft the ends together instead of binding off, which won't give you like the cowl has that thick seam. It does have a seam. You can't really avoid that when you're sewing stuff up, but you won't have that if you're going to do a provisional cast on and then graft it together with the final row. You won't have a seam, but you will have one line of non-pattern, I guess. I don't think it would be very obvious though. And then I love the idea of doing a Mobius, when it's all done, twist it once and then sew the ends together. Make sure it's big enough though, because one of them is a little, to me, is at least my large neck, it's a little closer to the neck, and I'm not sure if if it had a twist in it, it would be comfortable. But I like the idea of designing another one on purpose that twists, so in the future. So we're going to go to the overhead though and talk about how to seam things up. So let me know, can you still hear me okay? If there's something changed with the volume when I changed my cameras, then just let me know and we'll try to work this out some other way. So I just want to explain, because here's my tiny little sample. So we're going to sew these two ends together, sort of. So tiny, tiny little cowl. And that's all you do, is like you sew one end to the other. But where you sew is important to get it as seamless as possible. Let me show you both of the cowls so you can see. Because, I mean, you can see there's a seam there, but you want it to look like the stitches are sort of running right over the seam. Like, can I get that up closer? Here we go. Is that better? Okay, I think that looks better. So if you follow like a row of V's, it should even right over the seam, just continue right up. So it looks continuous, even though it's a totally different color and you can see there is a seam line in there. If I pull it, I'm going to try to pull it tight. There we go. And you can still see like it's just one line. It just crosses over and it looks like it just keeps continuing. Same with this one. Oh, it's probably easier to see on this one because this is worsted weight yarn. So if you look like for a column of these and just follow it up, it just looks like it's continuing right along that seam right there. And that happens because of how you sew it, like where you're sewing the pieces together. So on the bottom piece, when you're inserting your needle on this side, you're going to go, let's pretend these are our stitches, because every stitch looks like this. It has two legs. And then there's the one above. And obviously, like, one of them is going to be upside down because of the way it's knit, like it was knit in this direction. So if I flip this up, this side's now upside down. But you just try to get it in position. And the best way, you want to line up the pattern as much as possible. And I like to start, like, I didn't weave in my ends, but I don't think you have to, honestly. Tuck them inside and sew it up. It's not, I don't think they're going to come out or anything like that. But I use the tails, like where the tails are. I know that, like, that's where I want to begin my seam. And I try to match up the pattern. We want to try to match it up across that seam line. But what we're going to do, like, so this would be that, this edge here would be this edge. And what you're going to do is go in the center of one stitch down and up. Oh, that's out of focus. There we go. And then back up through this stitch. So you're going through the center of the V's, down one V and up through the next. Now on the top, we don't want to do that, or we get what they call like the 11s, like it pulls the stitch together and it doesn't look like a stitch, and it doesn't look like a V anymore. It looks like an 11 because it's been shoved together. So on these, we're going to go between the stitches. That's really all you're doing. You're going to start by going into this stitch and back out of this one, and then the stitch that's above it, you go on one side of it and then on the other. And then you come back down here, back down into this stitch, and then up through this one, and then back where that one is, and on the other side of that, and then back down here, and back up this way, and then down there, and back up through this one. Hopefully the little drawing makes, I hope that at least helps you visualize like where you're going to place your needle. Now we're going to try to demonstrate it on this tiny little thing. So you want to have like a good long tail of yarn. So whatever color you're going to use, you can like break the other one and then just, I think about 3 times the circumference of your project. Make sure you have that much yarn and then break off the rest of the ball of yarn. You won't need any more than that. So you want to line up. Can't really do it with this tiny little thing, but try to line up your pattern. Should have made this a little bit bigger. But okay, I'm going to pick my first one down here. I know that my cast on's right here along the edge. So let's try to get this into focus. Okay, it's a bit dark. Let me try to brighten it up a little, see if that helps. Actually, maybe the paper would. No, white paper would, but I don't have any handy. I think that's a little better though. We'll just make it a little overexposed. All right, so once you find like that starting point where you cast on, basically, you want to find that stitch, and you're going to go in the center of it. Come on, focus. There, is that okay? In the center of that stitch, and then up through the center of the next stitch. And pull it through. I should have said something about the yarn as well, because if you're using chroma, the chroma yarn, it's a single ply, and it doesn't have a tendency, like it doesn't want to be pulled on a lot or it will break. So as you're doing your seam, if you're using the same yarn, then you just want to keep things really close together. One thing people will do is like do their whole seam and then sort of pull both ends to zip it up. You can't really do that with the chroma yarn because it's going to break, and then you're going to have to like pick it out and redo it. So I use the yarn, or I switch to like a different yarn. Like this would work. This is just a simple plied yarn, but if one of your colors, if you have one that's pretty much the same color, you're not going to see it when you're done anyway, then you can use like a plied yarn that is going to be a little firmer. Or if you're going to use chroma, then just make sure you're not like zipping up. You're not leaving everything really loose. You're going to pull them tight as you work them to close up that seam. So we have our first one down here. So we're going to go to the comparable. So you got to turn it around because we want to close it up like this. So I think the November cowl, it's actually easier to match it up. Like that big bit of blue right there is really easy to match up. So up here, we go between the stitches. So on one side of this white stitch, and then up on the other. Keeps wanting to go out of focus. Okay, there we go. And it's very overexposed. Okay, that's a little better, I think. So down on one side of the stitch and up on the other side. Pull your tail through. And then once you've picked, or once you've like placed the first two, it's just a matter of following. So we're going on this, in the bottom, it's in the center of the stitch. So right where the yarn is coming out, we're going to go right back down and up through the next stitch. Hopefully you can see that the yarn is a little dark. So we're in the center of each stitch, kind of going to pull on it a little bit to close it up. And then same, I can look at the yarn here, it's coming up right there. So this is that next stitch. So down on one side and up on the other. And then back down here. And this is it. Like you're just going back and forth. There is the yarn coming out of this stitch, so I'm going back in that stitch and up through the next one. Back to the top where the yarn is coming out. We're going back there and on the other side of that stitch. So you can see I left, these are really loose. So if you have applied yarn, you can do that and then go like this and zip it up. That's what I mean when I say zip it up. That works with this kind of yarn, and you can see I didn't catch anything anywhere because I can pull on it. I can pull on it both ways. Sometimes, I mean, I usually don't get that lucky. Like it usually gets snagged on something, so you really have to be careful. You're not like splitting a stitch because you want it to like pull like that. But if you're using the chroma yarn, which is a single ply, and it's much harder to tug on it like this, so you don't want to like leave a lot of stitches to zip up. And you also can't see where you've worked, so I've got to like sort of pull it back a little so I can see. So I know last one was up here, so I'm going to come back down here into the stitch here and up through the next center of the next stitch. my needle and yarn out of the way. So back where the yarn is on this side, but on either side of the stitch. And that is really the whole thing. So if you have any questions about the process, you can go ahead and pop them in the chat, and that's it. Like, and if I pull it and you look at it, if it'll focus, too close maybe? Okay, that's better. Then it looks, I mean, there's a seam right here, but the stitches sort of travel right over it. So you just want to make sure you're just continuing along, and keep an eye on the pattern as well. That will make sure that you're like in the right stitch, because you want the pattern to line up across that seam as well. And you can see like it's pretty much lined up right there. So that's the process. Just if you are using the chroma yarn, then be sure that you're like not doing a whole long row and then trying to zip it up, because your yarn's probably going to break. Ask me how I know, because that happened to me when I was knitting I think the November cowl. I think with the Longshore currents, the fingering weight, it seemed to go more smoothly. But yeah, it was the November cowl. I think maybe because it's thicker yarn and thicker, like just everything was thicker. So it had a tendency to be more easily broken. But I think if you had like some scrap yarn, like if I had some scrap black yarn, I could have just used that for the seam. You can't even see the seam, even pulling it apart. So I don't think you have to be even really exact with the color if you don't want to use the chroma yarn to do the seaming, because it does have a tendency to like, it doesn't want to be pulled really hard like sometimes you might have to do with the seam. But it's possible. I did it with both of mine. I used just the yarn, and I just did it like a little at a time, pulled those few stitches tight, and then a few more, and then pulled it tight. Instead of like, there's something really fun and satisfying about having like this whole row of like these seam stitches and then just pulling the yarn and watching it zip up. It's a very satisfying feeling. Okay, let's see. Cheryl, she has a question. I didn't participate, but I'm watching because I'm very interested in the seaming process. Is there a name for that technique? I think, well, I know the vertical one for stitch to stitch this way is mattress stitch. I think it's the same term, but it's horizontal edge to like cast on to bind off, or horizontal edge to horizontal edge. But I think it's still referred to as mattress stitch. I think. I'm not quite sure. But, or the other thing, I mean, it's not really a name for it, but it's like seaming one horizontal edge to another horizontal edge. But the only other, I have heard it referred to as mattress stitch, even though it's not exactly the same as like taking two sides like this way and going up the stitches. But as far as I know, it's the same name, I think. Jenny, a little doll-sized cowl? Yeah, I didn't even think of that. I should finish seaming it up, and my daughter has lots of figures and stuff. See if she wants it for one of those. This is the little swatch I was using for the whole live stream though, so I stopped like working in pattern. There's like a huge section where it's like just random white and blue stitches and there's no pattern at all. So, but maybe she wouldn't notice that. But yeah, I should finish seaming it up for her. Let me see. Monique, remember to hit the thumbs up. Yeah, go ahead and do that. And Cheryl from snowy, windy, southeastern Saskatchewan. Ooh, you're getting snow? We haven't gotten any here yet. Very windy and it's getting cold, but no snow. Hey, Canadian. Nice to see the Canadians here. Cheryl Brown again. Mattress does make sense because it zips up just the same. Yeah, that's what that's the only thing I can recall it being referred to is mattress stitch. And yes, it's so satisfying to watch it zip up. Like, I just love that. The worst though is like if you're seaming and you have a nice long one, you go to zip it and get stuck somewhere and then you have to try to figure out like if you split a stitch or what you did so it got stuck, and sometimes you have to pick it back out and fix it. But that's one thing that's nice about this kind of sewing is you can absolutely like pull it back out and redo it. So if the pattern's not matching up or whatever the issue is, then you can pull it back. Oh, and also with the chroma yarn, if you're having issues like with it breaking, don't do like the whole, I've got like quite a long piece here. I would do a shorter piece, and then like when it's pretty much done, tuck it inside and then start again with another shorter piece, because the longer it is and the more you're pulling on it, the more likely it is to break. So if you want to use that single ply yarn, which is, I love it for the cowl. I don't love it for sewing it up, but it is possible to do it. You just have to be more careful with it. Let me see, Nancy, I'm working on the November cowl. I ordered the same colors and fingering yarn, and I'm going to make matching mittens. Oh, what a great idea. I wish there was a way for me to see pictures of your project. Well, there is a community. We're going to talk about that later. If you want to go post a picture over there, sort of like a bonus thing. You don't have to do it, but if you want to. But anyway, so that is the demo. Let me check my notes. Let's do another giveaway. So the next giveaway I think is going to be I have a little course called Fix Your Knits, I think is the name of it now. It used to be Fix Your Knitting Mistakes, but that felt really long. So now we just call it Fix Your Knits, where it goes over, well, the first thing is sort of like a workshop on learning to read your knitting, because you can't fix your knitting if you can't read your knitting. So we go over all of like reading your stitches, and then there's like all the basic things like tinking back and frogging and lifelines and dropping down. You do a little swatch and you test dropping down in like 4 different stitch patterns, 1 stitch at a time or a section of stitches. And then in like the more advanced section, there is like dropping down to fix increases and decreases. And then all culminates in sort of like your final review where you can like drop down and fix a section of lace. So if you don't already have that class, then I think I recognize a few people, so I know you already have it. But if you don't and you'd like to, then just comment fix in the chat right now, and I'll give you a minute for that. Same as before, YouTube is not sponsoring this giveaway. I'm going to do like the same. I already put my email address in there, so if I choose you to win, then you just have to email me that you won, and I can get you at like your own sort of discount code to access the course. But nobody wants it? Oh, I think there's like a delay from my end here, so I have to give you a few minutes. Thank you, Monique. She says it's a fantastic course. You will lose the fear. Yeah, once you, like, I think there's something about knitting a swatch and then just taking the time to like rip it apart and try to fix things that you just kind of get over your fear of what's happening. Like if you make a mistake with your knitting, like if I have a dropped stitch, well, unless it's brioche, that's like, no, thank you. That's a mess. But anything else, it's not a big deal. But really, if you like knit a swatch and you start practicing even on your own, like you'll get over the fear of like trying to fix things or being scared of trying to fix things or whatever. Like, yeah, just swatch in whatever stitch pattern you're working on, then try to drop a stitch and pick it back up in pattern and just practice. You'll get it. Okay, I waited a few minutes, I think. Let me grab a drink. Okay, so I'm just gonna call it a name, and then you can email me at hello@tanyaknits.com. I did put it in the chat somewhere at the top, and just email me that you won the Fix Your Knits course, and I will get you access probably sometime tomorrow. I'll get all of you your things. Jenny says, I panic. Oh, then like, yeah, just even a stockinette swatch, like knit some, like a little swatch of stockinette and just practice, like take the needles out on purpose and start ripping stuff out to try to put it back on the needles. Like it will, like you have to do it and practice it. I'm not a doctor or a surgeon, but I imagine there's a lot of practice involved before you're ever actually like do surgery on a person. Like they've got to practice. So I think this is a skill that you have to practice it. Whether that's on your project or on a swatch is up to you, but it gets easier the more you try to do it. Like anything, really, right? Okay, I waited long enough. 1, 2, 3. Hazel. You won the course, Hazel Beatrice, so you can go ahead and email me, and I will get that out to you probably tomorrow. Same with the people who won the patterns. And do we have any more questions? While I'm waiting for you, if there's any more questions, we don't have anything else. We've covered everything about like stranded knitting and knitting the cowl, so I hope well, you're either finished or you're working on it, so hopefully it's going well. But for the replay, we'll do the same. I'm going to do the course again. So if you're watching the replay of this, you're not here live, or even if you are here live, when it's done, go down in the comments below the video and just leave a comment telling me that you'd love to win the Fix Your Knits course. And we'll do that. I'll pick somebody on Thursday. I'm not sure what day it is. Today is the 19th. So the 21st, I'll randomly choose somebody from the comments down below to win the course. And then I'll comment, I'll tag you and get in touch with you so you can get access. So this is for the replay. So when we're all done and everything's finished, you can go down to the comments below, not in the live chat, and leave a comment down there to win an access to the course. And Cheryl says, it's easier than you think. It is. It really is. And it gets easier the more you do it. Now, if I drop a stitch, it's no big deal. Like, it does not faze me a bit. Even if it's not stockinette, if it's another stitch pattern, totally fine. And Monique, she's got advice for you, Jenny. You can do it. Take it one stitch at a time. That should be on a t-shirt. One stitch at a time. Yeah. And once you get the stitch anatomy, it will be clear. Definitely. Yeah, I think I have a video on that, like on reading your knitting, and that's really like sort of the foundation. Once you can like tell what's happening on your needles, fixing things is not hard at all. So one last thing before we wrap up, we are sort of having like a grand prize giveaway, but we can't do it here on YouTube because you have to like show a photo of your project. So it's over there is a link down below for like the thread in the private community. So it's totally optional. You don't have to do this step, but I wanted to see some photos of your cowl. So that's sort of like the thing to enter the final giveaway. So the giveaway is from Knit Picks. They are sponsoring the knit along and offering a $50 gift card to somebody. So for this one, there are guidelines on where you have to live. You have to be able to either live in the US, Canada, UK, or Australia, or you can have your packages shipped to one of those 4 locations to access the gift card, because those are the only places that they send their products. So the US, Canada, the UK, and Australia. So for this, you have to go over to the private community, and I posted a link right to the actual thread, but it is private, so you have to set up a profile, and then you just leave a picture of your cowl. It doesn't have to be finished. It can be in progress, even just cast on, whatever. Like just a progress picture of where you are with the cowl, and that's your entry for our big final giveaway. So that is going to be open until Thursday as well, so 2 more days to get that. So that's just sort of a bonus, but and thank you to Knit Picks for providing that giveaway as well. And all the description for the giveaway is down in the description box as well. So I think that is it for our knit along. Thank you so much for joining me. This is the first time I've done a knit along, and hopefully it went well. I would love feedback if you have other ideas for what we could do with the future ones. I would love to have one where we do everything right on YouTube and not on like a separate community anywhere, but hopefully YouTube will like let people share photos. That's the one big thing I wish we could do, is other people could share like their progress pictures for their knitting and stuff. Okay, any more final questions? Kim, I have trouble picking up stitches while doing the shadow wrap heel. Yeah, that can be tough too. But it does get easier the more you do it, the more you like look at your knitting and what you're doing. It's really easy to like just keep knitting and not really paying attention to what you're doing. So like just stop and look at the stitches and how they sit on the needles and how you're wrapping the yarn and how that affects how the stitches sit on the needles. And there's so much to explore with your knitting. Thunderman, it isn't stockinette stitches that intimidate my repair, it's the other stitch patterns for sure. Yes, definitely. But even that, well, with the course we have 4 different, it's garter stitch, stockinette, knit 2, purl 2, rib, and seed stitch. So combinations of knits and purls. And once you understand how to fix those, then all the other ones get to be a little easier. Like now I can do like stranded knitting. If I picked up like knit the wrong color, I can drop down and switch the color. or double knitting. I've even done it with that. It's a little more difficult, but it can be done. Like once you start getting like those foundational stitch patterns, the other ones start to get easier. The only one I really hate to try to fix is brioche. I don't like trying to fix brioche, so I use lifelines a lot because if I make a mistake, I try to fix it, and then if I can't, I can pull it back to my lifeline and redo that. Cheryl, would a Zoom KAL work? Oh, that would be a good idea, wouldn't it, where we do everything on Zoom? I like that idea. That could work. Jenny, I hope I have enough knitting experience to do the next KAL. Oh, I'm sure. I like good teaching projects, so probably yes. Okay, so it looks like that's it. So we're going to wrap it up for tonight. So thank you so much for joining me for this knit along, and I hope you enjoyed it. And well, if you're done, well, congrats to you for finishing your cowl. If you're not, then get working, get that done. Well, not really. I mean, do it when you want to, or if you want to. But I am very pleased that you joined me, and hopefully we'll have to do this again in the future. So that's it for our knit along. Join that final giveaway if you want, or leave your comment down below for the Fix Your Knits course for that giveaway, and we will see you in the next